the idealistic passion and attachment we, in this great nation of ours, had 1,000 years ago, it's difficult sometimes to reconcile oneself with today's propensity not to be near the island.
Idealism is a wonderful thing.
Certainly, others in this great nation of ours, far from our own isolated island, not given up on such idealism.
There are some corners of the universe which have bred the most terrible things.
Sometimes to their own detriment. The prospect of Mnangagwa's government in Zimbabwe continuing until 2028 is a daunting one, and the advocate against the prospect, Constantino Chigewa, MP of the ZANU-PF party, certainly has a flair for rhetoric regarding ideologies. More and more people take more and more spontaneously short breaky things outside the country. The departure lounge at Heathrow is packed with our own countrymen who just want to escape today.
He wants to keep you here.
I'm a fervent advocate of cross-cultural exploration. However, there is a limit to everything, surely.
You Europeans have always been naive where those Russians are concerned.
Now, not as far as idealism is concerned, though. Archaeologist Dr. Webber-Ndoro maintains that there's only 10 archaeologists responsible for the preservation of sites like Great Zimbabwe. Idealism spurns the thirst for a sense of belonging in nations all across the world. Utilised to its maximum effect. It is not so much the frequency with which these jaunts are embarked upon as the subculture. In the late 70s to mid 80s, a plethora of vaunted, overpriced travel merchants began a campaign through the influence of the middle class Thatcher's Britain of terror, a terror dripping in progressive commercialism and the obnoxiousness of designer suits worn by men with unjustified upper middle class superiority.
You master.
Haunted by my recollection of Michael Palin and Eric Idle's travel agent sketch.
Some big fat bloated top with her hair bilking down and a big arse presented to me.
The image of an overbearing matriarch does pretty much sum up the economic climate of the time. Gangs of snotty-nosed Eatonites with overbearing upper-middle-class attitudes roamed the land in ostentatious BMWs, terrifying people. The image, for an instance there, of Harry Ensfield's brilliant personification of the upper-class twit. You might even get there if you look at P.G. Wodehouse' Bertie Wooster for 2 seconds. A reflection of the rising upper middle classes and disgust of the idle rich of the time. Nearly all cultures have an overbearing hierarchical class.
And the RAF, who now suffer the largest casualties in this area.
The Mapatuno fortress in Mozambique holds relics of cannons on display and statues of Portuguese generals in bronze. They definitely had a hierarchical structure. For instance, one of the instrumental textbooks in Africa in 1942 was T.R. Baton's Tropical History of Africa, which expresses such sentiments. Yet another great example of the so-called rational perspective is instigated by the hierarchical system of such times. Great wasteful relics of a bygone age, indulging in pastimes that belong to a new era. Unfortunately, that's the thing about travel. A new road might be built ostensibly for emergent successors of the peoples of the land, but that doesn't stop those who built it taking advantage of it for a prosperous future in their own hands. It's like making a soothing coffee from the machine. It might flow nicely from the jar into your mug, but when you reach the bottom of the mug, there's often little bits. Progress works in a similar fashion. You might be peacefully walking along a brand new pedestrian precinct one day and noticed that there is a town councillor responsible for public development busking on the pavement across the road, performing a grating rendition of "Well, I'm cleaning windows." This is obviously a pitiful attempt to show he's really just one of the people. The love one has for their own country is dependent on whether you're wealthy enough to leave it or not. The less financially endowed you are, the more likely you are to leave it in the first place. Consequently, fascist nationalism breeds like wildfire and is picked up by the ruling classes who think, like an over-intent spouse, that something should be done about the situation. All that is needed is for the BNP-inclined majority to have a pint with their majestic mates or megalithic mates down the lost link and grumble that, issuing the sort of grumble that would put Victor Meldrew to shame. Between the heavy burden of the mid-80s type of upper class and the Neanderthal Clarksonness of the increasingly proliferating populace, it might, from some respects, be easy to see why people are clamouring not to be near the island.
A man may fight for many things. His country, his principles, his friends, the glistening tear on the cheek of a golden child. But personally, I'd mud wrestle my own mother for a ton of cash, an amusing clock, and a sack of French porn.
Give us a good clicking.
Shakanaka.